There is a quiet battle taking place inside countless people every single day. It does not leave bruises that the world can see. It does not announce itself with thunder or alarm. Instead, it whispers. It whispers that you are not ready, that you are not enough, that someone else is smarter, stronger, more talented, more deserving than you. It convinces you to remain silent when your voice could change a room. It persuades you to step back when life is asking you to move forward. It wears the disguise of caution, but beneath that disguise lies fear. And the longer you listen, the more unfamiliar your own strength begins to feel. But what if that voice has been lying to you all along? What if the greatest prison you have ever known has never been built with walls, but with words you accepted without question? Words spoken by people who doubted themselves. Expectations placed upon you, before you ever discovered who you truly were. Failures that became labels instead of lessons. Moments that convinced you that your mistakes defined your future, when in reality they were only introducing you to your resilience. Confidence has never belonged to the loudest person in the room. It has never belonged to those who never failed or never feared. Real confidence belongs to the person who keeps walking even while fear is speaking. It belongs to the one who chooses truth over insecurity, purpose over comparison, and courage over comfort. It is not a gift handed to a fortunate few. It is something quietly built, one decision at a time, deep within the soul. Imagine waking up one morning, without asking for permission to believe in yourself. Imagine making decisions without the constant weight of wondering what everyone else will think. Imagine speaking, creating, loving, and living from a place that is no longer controlled by doubt. That version of you is not a fantasy waiting somewhere in the distant future. That version of you has been waiting patiently beneath years of hesitation, ready to emerge the moment you stop believing. Every fearful thought that enters your mind today is not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It is about discovering that your strength has always been greater than your fear. It is about peeling away every false story that convinced you that confidence belonged to someone else. Because the truth is simple, powerful, and life-changing. The person you have been waiting to become has been within you from the very beginning, waiting for one brave decision to finally step into the light. Self-doubt is one of the most convincing illusions the human mind can create, because it speaks in a voice that sounds familiar. It does not shout like fear or rage. Instead, it quietly repeats the same messages until they begin to feel like truth. It tells you that you are not capable enough, not talented enough, not experienced enough, or not worthy enough. Over time, these thoughts stop feeling like passing emotions and begin to shape the way you see yourself. But the most important realization you can have is that self-doubt is not your identity. It is something you learned. It was built through experiences, words, disappointments, and comparisons. And anything that has been learned can also be unlearned. Think about the first time you questioned your own abilities. Chances are, you were not born believing you were inadequate. As children, we explore, ask questions, make mistakes, and try again, without carrying the burden of constant self-judgment. Somewhere along the way, criticism became louder than encouragement. A failure became a definition instead of a lesson. Someone else's opinion began to outweigh your own understanding of yourself. Little by little, confidence was replaced with hesitation, until doubting yourself became a habit rather than an exception. The mind is powerful, but it is also deeply influenced by repetition. If you hear enough negative messages, whether from others or from your own inner voice, your brain starts accepting them as facts. Yet a thought is not the same as reality. Just because your mind says, "I can't do this," does not mean you are incapable. It only means your mind has become accustomed to protecting you from discomfort by convincing you not to take risks. The purpose of that voice is often survival, not growth. It would rather keep you safe in familiar uncertainty than expose you to the possibility of failure, even if a success is waiting on the other side. The danger comes when you stop questioning that voice. You begin turning down opportunities, hiding your talents, avoiding challenges, and settling for less than what your heart truly desires. The tragedy is not that you lack ability, but that you never allow your ability to reveal itself. Every dream abandoned because of self-doubt strengthens the illusion that you were never capable in the first place. The moment your life begins to change is the moment you separate yourself from the voice of doubt. Instead of saying, "I am insecure," you begin saying, "I am experiencing insecurity." Instead of believing, "I am not enough," you recognize that this is an old story repeating itself. This simple shift creates distance between who you are and what you think. You are no longer imprisoned by every fearful thought that enters your mind. You become the observer instead of the prisoner. Real freedom begins when you understand that your identity is not built from your fears, your failures, or the opinions of others. Your true self exists beneath every label that was placed upon you. It remains whole despite rejection, resilient despite disappointment, and worthy despite every moment of uncertainty. As you challenge the false beliefs that have lived within you for years, you slowly reclaim the confidence that was never truly lost. Only buried beneath layers of borrowed fear, inherited limitation, and unquestioned assumptions waiting to be released. Through awareness and courage, confidence is often misunderstood as a feeling that arrives before action. Many people believe they must first feel brave, certain, or completely prepared before they can pursue a dream, speak their truth, or take a meaningful step forward. Yet this belief keeps countless lives suspended in hesitation. The truth is that confidence is not the starting point of growth, it is the result of growth. It is built through repeated choices that prove to your mind that you are capable, even when uncertainty remains. Waiting to feel confident before acting is like waiting for the sunrise before lighting a candle. The light you seek often appears because you chose to move first. Every confident person you admire once stood where you stand now. They questioned themselves. They feared failure. They wondered whether they had what it took. The difference was not that they possessed extraordinary courage from the beginning. The difference was that they refused to let fear become the author of their decisions. They acted despite their doubts. Each small action became evidence that they could survive discomfort, adapt to challenges, and continue growing. Confidence followed those experiences, not the other way around. The human mind learns through evidence. Every time you avoid something because of fear, your brain concludes that the situation must truly be dangerous. This strengthens anxiety and reinforces hesitation. But every time you take action, even if your hands shake and your heart races, your brain gathers new information. It begins to understand that uncertainty does not always lead to failure. It discovers that mistakes are survivable, rejection is temporary, and setbacks are valuable teachers rather than permanent verdicts. Slowly, the fear that once seemed overwhelming loses its authority. Building confidence does not require dramatic achievements. It grows through ordinary decisions repeated consistently. Choosing to speak when you would rather remain silent, applying for an opportunity instead of assuming rejection. Learning a new skill even when progress feels slow. Keeping a promise to yourself when no one else is watching. These moments may appear insignificant, but together they reshape your identity. Every fulfilled commitment tells your mind, "I am someone who follows through." Every completed challenge whispers, "I am stronger than I believed." Many people wait for motivation to appear before they begin. However, motivation is often the reward of action rather than its cause. Once you start moving, energy increases, clarity improves, and belief expands. The first step may feel uncomfortable, but the second becomes easier, and the third begins to feel natural. This is how confidence is quietly constructed. Not in moments of perfection, but in moments of persistence. There will still be days when doubt returns. Confidence does not eliminate fear forever. Instead, it changes your relationship with fear. Rather than allowing fear to stop you, you acknowledge its presence and continue walking anyway. You understand that discomfort is not a signal to retreat, but often an invitation to grow. Every challenge becomes another opportunity to strengthen your trust in yourself. Over time, these daily choices transform more than your abilities. They transform your self-image. You stop defining yourself by what you lack and begin recognizing the strength you have earned. You no longer seek certainty before taking action, because experience has taught you that certainty is created through action. The person who consistently chooses courage over comfort gradually becomes someone whose confidence no longer depends on applause, perfect outcomes, or favorable circumstances, but on the quiet knowledge that they can face whatever comes next with resilience, wisdom, determination, and an unwavering commitment to keep moving forward. Even when the path remains uncertain, one of the greatest burdens a person can carry is the belief that their value depends on the approval of others. From an early age, many people are taught to measure themselves through applause, praise, acceptance, or recognition. They begin to believe they are successful only if others admire them, intelligent only if others agree with them, and worthy only if they are constantly accepted. This way of living creates an exhausting cycle, because the opinions of people are always changing. If your confidence is built upon something that shifts with every conversation, every criticism, or every rejection, then your peace will always remain uncertain. True confidence begins the moment you realize that your worth cannot be given or taken away by another person's judgment. Every individual enters the world with a unique voice, a unique purpose, and a unique path. Yet comparison often convinces us that we must become someone else to deserve respect. We look at another person's achievements and assume they are more valuable than our own journey. We compare our beginning to someone else's years of experience. We mistake appearances for reality and believe that everyone else has life figured out, while we alone struggle with doubt. This constant comparison slowly steals the joy of becoming who we were meant to be, because our attention remains fixed on living someone else's story instead of writing our own. The desire for approval can become so powerful that it influences every decision. People remain in unhealthy relationships because they fear being judged for leaving. They silence their opinions because they want to avoid criticism. They abandon dreams that truly matter because someone once laughed at them or questioned their ability. In trying to satisfy everyone around them, they gradually lose connection with themselves. The greatest tragedy is not being misunderstood by others. It is forgetting your own truth while trying to earn acceptance from people who may never fully understand your journey. Real confidence is born when you stop asking the world for permission to exist exactly as you are. This does not mean ignoring wisdom or refusing constructive advice. Growth often requires listening and learning. However, there is a profound difference between learning from others and depending on them for your sense of worth. Advice can improve your skills, but it should never determine your value. Criticism may reveal areas for growth, but it cannot define your identity unless you allow it to. When you release the constant need for approval, something remarkable begins to happen. Your decisions become guided by purpose, rather than fear. You speak with greater honesty, because you no longer feel compelled to shape every word for acceptance. You pursue goals that genuinely inspire you, instead of chasing achievements designed to impress others. Success becomes more meaningful, because it reflects your authentic values rather than someone else's expectations. Life will always include people who misunderstand you, disagree with you, or fail to recognize your gifts. That is an unavoidable part of every meaningful journey. But their inability to see your worth does not diminish the light within you. A flower does not stop blooming because someone walks past without noticing its beauty. The sun does not ask the clouds for permission to rise each morning. In the same way, your purpose does not require universal approval to have meaning. The strongest confidence is quiet. It does not demand constant praise, endless validation, or public recognition. It rests on a deeper foundation. The unshakable understanding that your value has never depended on popularity, comparison, achievement, or perfection. It comes from knowing that you are enough even on days when no one applauds your efforts, even when progress feels slow, and even when the world remains silent, because the deepest measure of your life is found not in the opinions of others, but in the courage to remain faithful to your own truth, and continue walking with dignity, purpose, compassion, and unwavering self-respect.